So one of the things I wanted to do, and so, I want to do something where I'm going to probably put this out on Thursday of next week. I may put it out a little earlier. Some of the people that I invited to join us want to do a future one as well. But I just figured there's a lot of wisdom in this collectively in this group. And so I thought, first of all, I wanted to go through the whole group and just ask personally, how is everybody doing personally? And then a little bit about how your patterns in life have changed, if they have. And then just get to some wisdom stuff. So I know, like, Rich, you put out some stuff. I know your firm has put out some legal stuff that might be beneficial. Heidi, I know I want to make sure the name, the Paycheck Protection Program, and and I also, you also still run Plumb, right? Or you're still the owner of Plumb. So you've got the business angle. Tony made a couple changes going on to Transfinder, not too much over there. And Bela, he's retired, so nothing seems different for you, probably, right? So, and Jeff, of course, with construction and all these other laws, and there's questions about what's considered, what's permissible, what's not, and that kind of stuff. So can we just go around? I'll go with Rich, and for my order, Rich, Dave, Heidi, Jeff, and Tony, and Bela, I guess. Go from there. So, Rich, how's life? What's new for you?
Counting my blessings, so far everybody in my orbit is pretty healthy and fairly well employed. And it's just amazing how good it is. You're right, just to see everybody, even virtually. It's just nice to see people.
I thought you could say even Rick.
Seeing everybody, no matter how, it's just nice to interact with people.
It's huge. And how has your life changed much? I mean, you're not going to the office. You got a home office you're working out of now, or what's your life like?
Yeah, like everybody else, getting used to working out of the office, which we all thought we could do pretty seamlessly, and then found out we kind of couldn't. And the idea of working from home means you're working all the time. And, I think everybody's feeling the same thing.
The problem with Tony being on this call is I can't say my boss. I can't say anything about my boss because my boss is. But I have my work computer home, so it's like, Rick, why can't you just get out? Like you can do it. It's right here. No, I'm just teasing. David, you said the factory is still open. Well, first of all, personally, how are you doing personally, and how has your pattern changed at all in your life?
What Rich said, we're super blessed. Everyone is healthy. I have 6 siblings in the area. My mother and father still. Our 4 children. Everyone is just healthy, vibrant. And matter of fact, we've become so much closer as a family with eating dinners together and playing games together and doing homework together. So it's been really interesting. We hate being isolated, but we like being together and really growing together as a family. So we're super, super blessed. Patterns, from a work perspective, the first couple of weeks when the governor is, really adjusting policies as they were learning new data and so forth was really complex for us because, are we essential, not essential? We have, 50,000 square feet of factory space in Schenectady. How do we make those adjustments and keep our people healthy and safe? So those patterns were really murky in the beginning, but have normalized now over the last couple of weeks. So other than having 4 kids, fundamentally being homeschooled with, by my wife and late night homework, I think everything else is pretty normal so far. So, but we're blessed.
Yeah, with my youth group, the kids are overwhelmed, I think, a lot with some of the video because they actually feel like they have less. So, Heidi, how has life been for you? How are you doing?
It's changed completely. So my life is not the same. Probably will never be the same. So I work for those of you who don't know, I work for Pioneer Bank and also own Plumb Oyster Bar. Pioneer Bank, we got our paycheck protection program up and running pretty quickly. And I've been helping out with that with this awesome team that we've put together there. So we have just under 400 applications that have come in. And so that's a massive number for us. So we're working through that every day. I started working on them at 6 a.m. today, and I am going to give myself a break tonight. So I probably won't do any more tonight after this. But it is definitely like a massive effort on behalf of the bank for the community. So I'm really, really, really proud to be a part of that. And I'm really proud that I had a hand in putting that together.
Can we get
So
so we'll circle back with you to get some of the, you can give us some of the nitty gritty, some people questions.
yeah, absolutely. I've been doing calls with a lot of different groups on like just kind of what the PPP loans mean for them,
Yeah.
all of that, and happy to do that for sure. But I think the way that I feel at Pioneer and as a business owner is that the ground is kind of ever shifting right now. Like the rules are changing, so the PPP loans were. A lot of rules have shifted in that. So every single day I'm making mistakes just inherently by doing my job. And that doesn't feel good long term to every single day make hard decisions and mistakes. And every single day that's happening 10 times a day. And so just by nature of the ground moving.
Yeah.
So that doesn't feel super great. Plum Oyster Bar is closed right now. We did a COVID-19 cocktail club where for our guests, we offered 4 weeks of cocktails that they get delivered every Saturday. And so we're on our 4th week of that. We really thought we would be open after 4 weeks, so we did not elect to do another one, but we have, it was a really good program because we charged $300 for 6 cocktails a week for 4 weeks. So that worked out to like $12.50 a cocktail, and we delivered them, and it just gave an injection of like $10,000 into the business before we like really had to shut down. So that was great.
Yeah, that was a creative approach.
Yeah.
But it was, did you have to furlough them, or are you going to try to bring them back?
Yeah, so I furloughed all my employees on March 18th for 60 days. So the goal is to bring them back on May 18th. And so my PPP loan is going through a different institution because I'm a key employee at Pioneer Bank. So that process is kind of like yet to be determined, just because most institutions are taking their own customers first, but my only bank is Pioneer, but I can't apply through them because I'm a key employee. So I'm very lucky that our friends at the Bank of Greene County are going to put forward the application for Plum Oyster Bar.
Awesome. Jeffrey, how are you doing personally, and how has your daily patterns changed?
I'm alive. Do you guys have the echo?
Yeah, is that you?
We're good now.
Okay.
Now is it good?
Yeah.
You can talk.
Mute yourself on your phone.
Can you hear me?
How about mute yourself on the screen and keep the
doing that too. How about now?
Dang.
How about now?
That's good.
Yeah, better.
Nice.
Can you hear me? Because I can't hear you anymore, but I can.
I can hear you. Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
Good.
I'll talk and not hear myself. I'm okay. I think that it's been a very interesting couple of weeks. I am more of the dreamer on the side of my team, and so typically my day-to-day revolves around what are we doing next, and I've had to shift into, how do we keep 100 plus employees employed and not furlough them, and much as what was described before for a while. Construction was an essential business, and then it shifted, and that causes a lot of shifting. The PPP program is interesting. I'll say that we filled out the applications 4 separate times, and as Heidi said, they keep changing. We've actually switched financial institutions a couple times to try and expedite, what it is we're trying to get done. Overall, I think Redburn's doing okay. I've been telling people for months that our $80 million investment was 6 months ahead of schedule and under budget, which never happens, and apparently it's never going to happen. That takes a little adjusting, a little getting used to, and recalibrating. We've shifted our focus over the next year as to what we're going to do, so we're going to start to pick up some smaller projects. We're very cognizant of, I think lending is going to look differently over the next 18 months as we come out of this, and banks are not going to be as aggressive as they've been over the past 6 or 7 years. So it's important to make sure that you're not caught flat-footed doing that. So I think in general, our company prides itself on being able to pivot quickly. And whereas we were pivoting once every 6 months, we're now pivoting, once every 6 hours.
So have there been projects that either have been shelved or just put on hold? Is that what you're saying? Or no?
He has to call back.
Oh, okay.
He can't hear you, remember?
Okay. We'll go to you, Bela, and then I'll go to Tony, and I'll come back to Jeff.
Okay.
So Bela, how has life changed for you, and how are you doing, first of all? And,
So yeah, myself and my wife and the kids and the grandkids are all doing well. As some of you may know, one of my sons and my daughter-in-law are both emergency room physicians at Brown University in Providence, and they say it's pretty crazy. Their lives are very crazy right now. So I sort of feel like I got convicted of a crime.
Just press pound to continue. Please enter the meeting password followed by pound.
okay.
You are
Time.
in the meeting now. There are 7 participants in the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. You are muted. You have been put on hold by the host. You are muted. You can
All right. It's not perfect. It's okay. So you've been convicted of a crime. You're under house arrest.
So I've been convicted of a crime and I'm under house arrest. The only thing missing is the ankle bracelet.
Okay.
Because I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. But in all real perspective, it really hasn't impacted my life all that much.
Still
Right?
going for your runs? You still doing your morning run?
I am. Right. I always ran by myself, so that's no big deal. I still do my runs and can't see the grandkids. Now it's interesting. My 94-year-old mom, who is an assisted living place, they are truly on lockdown. So I can't go see her, right? And if I want to drop something off, I drop it off in an alcove, and the doors are locked, and then someone later comes up and picks it up. So it's like going to see her in prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but anyway, things are okay so far.
My mom is 76, and she actually takes care of a woman who's 100, who lives in the same place where Rob lived. And last week, when the news got really dire that it was going to be 100 to 240,000 deaths, I basically called my mom and said, "You cannot go anymore. You have to." And I had to I don't ever tell my mom what to do. It's my mom, and I was so firm. I said, "You just cannot go, and tell her you love her, and this is short term, and then you can be back in her life, and call her as much as you want." But okay, and then Tony, how about you? How has life changed for you?
Ooh, how did it change for me? That's there's a lot of changes. I think I have to say we are blessed as a technology company that the week of course, Friday 13th, it was a date that we'll never forget, March 13th. That whole entire week, we made a lot of quick decisions. I remember on Monday morning, we decided we're going to cancel everything, all these trade shows that we've already, we already booked a year in advance. We live on trade shows. We do about 40 of those a year. So this is our season. It's actually called our shopping season. It's when people buy our software to get running for the school year. And so I started canceling Monday morning. We're starting notifying, we're not going, we're not coming. So of course, even our salespeople were saying, I was going to meet that person. I was going to close the deal. What do you mean? We're not going. So we canceled everything. So then of course, as just starting to get this spidey sense, and I think you guys heard me about this, this 60% of the time, I'm 100% right. So, right. And it's I just feel we got to move everyone out of the office. So I remember Friday morning, the 13th of March, I had a meeting with all the managers and it was serious. It's guys, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to become a remote company 100%. Everyone's going to get this beautiful box and they're going to get everything. They're going to get everything inside this box, even an HDMI cord. And I have pictures, and Rick and I have pictures that we're not ready to post. And guys, within 4 hours, we were able to get 80 people out the door. It was just a beautiful thing. But as a CEO of the company, I told everybody, just do your job. Everyone's got their job. Everyone's got their job. Just do your job. And
Now,
as
how
my
about your?
job is, right? My job is to make sure we're alive.
Now, I
Right.
want to get to the company stuff, but I also just want to ask personally, you still waking up the same time, going to bed the same time, all that, or has your daily?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So therefore, and I remember that my job is to make sure that everyone that walked out the door that day, they're going to come back. That's my job, because that is my job as the CEO of the company, and I let everybody know. So no, Rick, I get up around 6. I'm usually the last person in the office. I would stroll in around 9 o'clock or so. I'm ready to go. We're on these meetings immediately at 6, 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm already up. And I usually go to sleep around midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm not talking about 4 times a week. It's 7 days a week. And we are working so many hours. We had to pivot. Like you said, Jeff, I think we've pivoted so many times. You know why? Because we got to survive. And I tell you, we are blessed in so many different ways that we're able to figure out how to get a hold of our clients. And I tell you, it is very difficult. And one thing that we've learned is to keep communicating with everybody. And employees they're nervous. Listen, we're nervous too. So if we're nervous, imagine how our employees are, right? So Jeff, I know you're feeling. And so we've been over communicating. I think that's been the term.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
life has changed a lot. And I think we're all going to become, as long as we survive through this, we'll be better.
Very good. All
Companies,
right. So here's what I wanted to do.
right?
Is I want you guys to feel like it's a conversation like we normally do at the BizLab. You have to kind of do a little pause so someone else can jump in. But I wanted to feel very much like a conversation. I was going to add I have a couple of questions I want to kind of get the ball rolling, and then and then we'll go from there. But Dave, one of the things I'm wondering with you is, you know, in terms of your leadership style, you know, this is probably one of the biggest tests you've had as a leader. It's not something you expected. It kind of came out of the blue. So how do you communicate? Tony just talked about that you can't over communicate. It is a mantra we have that you can't when you have those gaps of time, people fill those in sometimes because their imaginations can run wild. So Dave, how do you communicate regularly? But then even like, you know, at the beginning of all this change, did you have them all get together in a room, or paint the picture for me what you've done?
Yeah, you know, a couple things. First and foremost, my office is typically separate from the manufacturing locations. We have 2 in Schenectady and 1 in Denver. So I'm not really present in the factories, but the minute the news started breaking mid-March, I immediately moved my office into the factory because I want to be amongst the men and the women that are working there. You know, as things were unfolding in the first 1 or 2 weeks, it was, you know, obviously it was scary for a lot of people, fear and anxiety. And, you know, a lot of the policies in terms of gatherings and stuff started shifting pretty quickly. So we kind of created a war room, and there was 3 or 4 of us that were really trying to make decisions very quickly. So A, to comply, you know, with all the policies that were changing. B, to really make sure that we're keeping our folks safe and everything else. And we just stayed in constant contact with our guys. And we asked for ideas. We said, look, everyone's going to have fear. Everyone's going to have anxiety. You know, we're going to continue working. When we went through the process with ESD to become an essential business and, you know, designated as such, we made some big, quick decisions to go to a 7-day work schedule. We went to 3.5 days and 3.5 days and split the shifts. So there's less, you know, 50% less people on the factory floor at any given time. So we go 12 hours Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 6 on Wednesday, and split to the B shift through Saturday.
That's all for the social distancing reasoning?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we have an average of about 15 to 20 feet between employees on the shop floor. We sent the administration home to work, finance, HR, sales, and marketing. But in terms of communication, one of the things that we did, you know, I believe in crisis or anytime, you really should communicate with empathy, number one. You know, a lot of people have fear and anxiety. They don't have some of, you know, the same value system or maybe the same belief system that, you know, each one of us have. They don't have the same perspective in terms of the crisis. So, you know, I believe you communicate with empathy, with truthfulness, and with frequency. So one of the things we did is we created an email, large email group that includes all the employees from Denver, all locations in Schenectady, and all of their significant others. And the reason we did that is every Saturday or Sunday, we send out emails. Hey, here's what happened this week. Here's where we are in terms of job security. Here's how we're complying with policy changes. Here's what we're doing to keep everyone safe, social distancing. We hired a firm to come in 7 days a week to disinfect the factories each and every night. You know, so we're being very, very diligent about those things. And what's interesting about that is we actually asked the spouses and significant others to share ideas with what we can do in the business and the operation to continue keeping people safe. And actually, we came up with an initiative called Love Your Neighbor. And so one of the things that we started doing to get everyone engaged in the community, we hand out $2,500 of grocery cards every Friday. I hand deliver those to people in the community, widows and elderly people. I got to do 25 tomorrow morning. And then we pick a restaurant every week, and we buy meals for all the employees and their families with one restaurant every Friday. And then we're 3D printing masks and distributing those to nurses and doctors in our community. Wow. So it's really created this whole community ecosystem that includes all the spouses and significant others to be part of some of the things that we're trying to do for our community and stay safe.
That's a great idea, though. The ideas you just listed were great, but also just the idea of bringing in the spouses to be part of that effort, right, to have buy-in. Jeff, how about you? And by the way, Dave, you've been able to keep everybody on the payroll still right now?
Everyone's on payroll. We're bustling 7 days a week, thank God. I've been through some tough times. You got to remain humble and take it day by day. But so far, so good, Rick. We're doing well, and our guys are truly blessed.
That's awesome. Jeff, how about you?
You'd
like to be in a stadium.
Actually, to hear all that, because I feel like the one place we have struggled with is communication. We have a much younger company. I'm 40 and I'm like the oldest guy in the whole place. And so I think as a result, we missed the boat on communicating to people really well. We're trying to fix that now. For the most part, we've been able to keep everybody. We furloughed a couple people. We let a couple people go because work was obviously going to drastically slow up. I think that what we didn't want to lose sight of, I think it was really great what we were just talking about, and I'll let Heidi talk a little bit about this too, but Heidi called me shortly after this started, and the two of us got together with our friend Dominic and Jessica and started a program called Tip Your Bartender. And to date, we've raised over $10,000 for local servers in the area that just were completely out of a job, out of nowhere. And, I know Heidi feels that pain incredibly well, having to talk to dozens of people. And for us, we looked at it as, let's assume that we're going to be stuck inside for 60 days. How do we orient our company to survive the shipwreck that 60 days creates, and then be able to step off of the boat afterwards and keep going?
Yeah.
And that's when we talk about a pivot. It's like, what is this going to look like? And so for a while we were like, this is fine. The governor's keeping construction open. And we were, I use the number all the time because it's staggering, but we were spending $150,000 a day in downtown Albany, just constructing. And so to have that just stop is, the faucet. The governor's been talking a lot about when do we turn the faucet back on? I mean, it's a literal faucet, right? Like the economy jolted to a halt, and our entire business model is built on let's rebuild our urban cores with residents and bars and restaurants and retail shops, and all of that just disappeared, forcing a conversation of, well, is it going to come back? And I think we're optimistic that it's going to come back, but it's not an unscary thing for sure.
And so, and how have you been communicating with your team to keep them? Is it every day, every once a week, or how do you, now that you said you've been working on that, to keep them up to speed?
We're blessed to be a small enough company that you can, it's over 100 people, but it's segmented in different divisions. And so, we made the decision, let's not lose focus, and let's remember that we're small enough to talk to people individually. And so yesterday when, I took an hour in the morning to just call, the 6 or 7 people that report to me daily and say, give me, 10-minute rundown. How are you? How are things? More importantly, like, how are you as a human being? And then I'll email you tasks, and, you're 22 or you're 26 or you're 28. You don't want to talk to me anyway, but I'm going to force you to spend 10 minutes of, yes, I'm okay, and everything's fine.
That's good. And that brings up another question I want to get to in a minute, which I better write down because I'll probably forget it. Tony, how about you? I know you're doing nightly notes. That's one thing. You're popping in on a lot more meetings. Tell me a little bit about your communication and
Well, I think the most important thing is that, listen, we've had a lot of people that were questioning, what are we doing? Why are we even trying to contact our clients? They're busy. Some of them are not there. What are we doing? Why are we even putting in the effort? So they definitely have had to struggle with those kind of people saying, they're not going to be there. Well, so one thing that I realized that whether it's your client or your prospects, you call them up. They're not going to buy anything from you, but you know something? They'll remember, like, you mean you only call me when I could buy something from you. So they're going to remember that. So I've been saying that, listen, call them up. They're not going to buy anything from you, but if you only call when you could buy something from them, they're going to remember, like, so Tony only called me when I knew I had some money to spend. So we're calling everybody. We know they're not going to buy anything. So it's been a really a change in our behavior that we got to call everybody. And it's a lot of empathy. We're dealing with schools that they're not transporting students to school and back. They're transporting meals, food. There's 25 million students in this country that need breakfast and lunch every single day. So they were going to school to get that. They were, obviously they're getting education too, but they're missing that. So a lot of our clients had to pivot to bring food to their house, bring a Chromebook so they could have the remote learning. So we've helped so many different things, but communication is about, if there's like one little success, I got to tell everybody, because that just gives us hope. Hey, it's not business as usual, but business is happening. So that's been the theme. And man, it's a nightly. I remember sending emails on Saturday, Sunday. It's every night. Every single night, there's a long email. And I'm sure most people are like, oh my God, why is he sending such a long email? Because I pour my heart into that.
And it's not, and these aren't like past, these are kind of just the highlights so that everybody kind of feels good about the company.
And it's some of them are just success. And I think everyone has successes in our day. Just share it. Just figure out how to do it. Text message, call, whatever you're going to do, right?
That's good. That's good. And the one thing that Tony did the other day in a meeting was, one of the guys on the team knew somebody personally who had coronavirus. You could see he said, I'm sorry, I'm not in my right frame of mind right now. And Tony was like, get out of the house for a while. It's okay. Get some sun. And it was one of those sunny days. And, that goes back to what Dave said about empathy as well.
Definitely.
Rich, how about you in terms of, there's a couple of things. Number one, I've been watching your WAMC, you're still doing these things, remotely, but also just give me some perspective, the businesses you're dealing with. Legally, is there stuff that we should know about as well, that things have cropped up as a result of COVID-19?
Well, certainly, look, the PPP is, what everybody's talking about, and I'll, defer to Heidi because, she's all over that. And she's right, the rules would change every day. Heidi, I would not feel bad about making mistakes, because what can you do when the regulations say one thing on Monday and then another thing on Tuesday, and then the SBA reinterprets. So don't feel bad about that. We're all, as much about this as anybody else in the world, because we all know the same amount. I think I feel the empathy for like Heidi and Jeff, because you're doing a couple of things, because I feel like we're in the same boat. You're trying to promote a sense of normalcy to the extent you can. I go into dad mode a little bit, same as what Tony said. Telling people, get outside, go walk, go spend time with your dog or your kids or whatever.
Not in that order necessarily.
Right. Yes. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, Heidi's thinking, I'm sure, when are the restaurants going to reopen? When are people going to? I think of the restaurants down in New York City, where you go to those restaurants where, you're closer to the people eating next to you than you are, the person you're dining with. What's that going to be like? In our case, the governor, the courts in New York State are shut down, basically. So I have, 60, 70 paralegals throughout the firm who do litigation. There's no litigation to be done. I wonder, is that going to come back? I'd kind of like to think maybe after all this, people are less concerned about arguing and maybe a little, and maybe, we'll move more quickly to settle things, which is great for society, but it changes our business model. So same as everybody else, communicating, telling people to take a breath, promoting the sense of normalcy, and just, Tony made a good point, just talking to people, calling clients, how you doing, that kind of stuff.
That's good. We had a panel discussion a week ago with a lot of experts who are like state education department, very high level people. And really and so I did a pre-call with them, and all my questions, or a lot of my questions, were, yeah, we don't really know the answer to that. Yeah, we don't really know the answer to that. And so when I did the panel, I said, you might hear them say a few times that they don't know the answer to that. That's not from lack of preparation. It means it, like you guys have all said, that this is changing. We say like this plane is being built in midair. And so that should give you some comfort in a way, because if they don't know it, nobody knows it. So that there's some comfort in that I'm going to the top people and they don't know either, and that's okay. And there's probably going to be some grace at the end of the day on hopefully on some of these things. Heidi, I can see it in your face. You're wearing, I love you, because
Yes.
you're a joyful person, and I can see you, and you can see that it's wearing on you. So can you fix it a little better?
A bit. I mean, one thing that I definitely want to say on this call is I think this whole experience has made it so apparent how differently I, and I think many women, run companies from all the dudes who are saying like, we like talk now and like send emails and like send out like a thing, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's so ridiculous in some ways. So I'm like, yeah, didn't you do that already? Like we celebrate small wins and include spouses. It's like, right. Like, a company. And so, that's just one thing that I definitely feel like it has to be said. I see it all over the papers. But from Plumb's perspective, I mean, we are, to Rich's point, we don't know what the future looks like. So we applied for a PPP because I think that 60-day window will allow us to figure out what Plumb is going to be next. So that's what that program is meant for, right? It's meant for a runway to take off. So we're kind of on the ground again. And my fear is that we're definitely like not in the same plane, right? So we have to figure it out again before we take off. And that 60-day period of the PPP is really what that is meant to do for companies. And so I don't know. I mean, I've been looking at like, okay, let's I called Albany Distilling and I said, okay, we're going to do Plumb cocktails and cans. Like, can you help us with that? Like, we're going to redo our liquor license and do blah, blah, blah. We're going to do simple syrups. We're going to do bitters. We're going to do shrubs. And so, I'm thinking like maybe the back room of Plumb becomes like a manufacturing center for like all these new things. And, that pivoting and that like rethinking and retooling, it's not exciting. Does that make sense? Like when I've started companies in the past, it has been with excitement. This is with like, okay, we have to figure this out. There's some don't get me wrong, there's some excitement in that. But it's like I have to figure out.
It sounded exciting. I was excited when you were describing it.
Yeah. It is, and it is exciting, but it's like it's nerve-wracking for employees. Like I have servers, our servers, I was just going to say, don't tell anybody this, but this is public. But our servers make like $35 an hour, $40 an hour. So what are they going to come back into, right? So I can't pay them $40 an hour to do any of the things that I just mentioned.
Right.
So, what does that look like? And that's just scary. That's just a scary thing for employees. It's a scary thing for just the restaurant and hospitality industry as a whole. And I think it's something that people really, like I have people who are in really big trouble. Like I gave an employee $150 last week so that they could buy food, a loan. Sorry, I shouldn't give, loaned an employee $150.
In case they're watching this, it's a loan.
That's right. It was a loan. It was a loan. But I sat with an employee for 45 minutes, 3 separate times on the phone with unemployment. Like this is the people who are affected are so affected, like so affected, like cannot eat affected.
Right.
And so it's just, I'm seeing that, and I'm also seeing the bank side, and it's just, there's just a lot. It's just a lot. It's a lot. So that's what you're seeing on my face. If that's what you were wondering.
Yeah,
That's what you're seeing on my face.
I get it. I definitely do. Jeff, you were nodding your head a lot. Jump in.
I just agree with Heidi most of the time. It's been, we have, about 1,000 apartments in our portfolio, and our entire business model has been built on, we're going to build workforce housing. We're going to build everyday apartments for everyday people at 80% AMI, where they can get back to having their income be a third of their income being for housing, right? This metric that we lost a long time ago in this country. It's a very easy social message to send. Oh, look at us, we're good developers. But really the economics behind the whole thing is, let's build a recession-proof product. Cool, that's a great idea. And then all of a sudden you go from, we have a good economy, to a recession in 14 days. And 10 million people are out of work, 15 million people are out of work. And the people that are affected, like Heidi just said, the people who are really affected. Yeah, they also don't know how to pay their rent. There's a problem with our economy. And I think, I was having a discussion on Facebook today where the words that are coming out of my mouth now, as someone who considers himself a fiscally conservative person, this Jeff would beat up the Jeff of 10 years ago, because the things coming out of my mouth are so foreign. But I think this in a very short amount of time is forcing people to think about what wasn't working, that everything just crashed so fast. And in some ways, no one builds their business to turn off the wheel, stop, and don't do anything for 2 months.
Right.
That's what's broken. What's broken is the incredible amount of people who are actually living paycheck to paycheck, and the fear that is instilled so quickly when all of a sudden you didn't just lose your job and apply for unemployment, but we don't know when jobs will be available again. The unknown of what is happening, this is not a generational thing. This is like a once in a century thing. What do you compare this to? The Depression, maybe? That's the scary part, and it's the part that generations aren't wired for it. And so, yeah, trying to keep people employed, and when's my construction project going to finish? But also, when can we live our lives again? Because we're a nation of consumers, and that's what we're really good at. We consume things. And so when we can't, what are we supposed to be thinking?
Jeff, I agree with everything that you just said, but it is so scary what you just said. Stop being so scary.
But part of what we're all, as business leaders, part of what we're supposed to be doing is, one, obviously, seeing there's a crisis and responding to the crisis, but also trying to maintain some perspective that it truly is a one in a seems like almost exactly it's a once in a century thing. Things will come back. It's kind of incumbent on us to push our businesses forward, to hire back people, even if it cuts into margins, to send people out to restaurants, even if it's a little scary at first. You got to take a step back and have some perspective and say, we'll come out of this, and there'll be a ramp up, but this was not necessarily a systemic issue.
That's because you're one of the older and wiser guys on this panel, Rich.
Certainly the older.
You have some perspective. I'm not saying you go back as far as the Depression, but yeah, I was watching the other day. This is what I watched to get cheered up. But I was watching a documentary, Ken Burns, I think, on the Dust Bowl. So 10 years. That was 10. I didn't realize it was 10 years. So one of the things I wanted to throw out, so some positive things. I know that I've already heard a little bit, David, you talked about some creativity in terms of the shifts that you've done. I want to get back to that and some others. So I'm going to throw it out to Tony first, because I know this one personally. And then Dave, anybody, and then this panel wants to jump in on this. And Bela, you've been quiet. You also have a wealth of knowledge, so please feel free to jump in. But you've had to have probably, I'm assuming, some out. And Heidi, you talked about the cocktail, and that was creative. And I wanted to think about, like, because some people are going to be watching this, you know, they're looking for answers too. Not how, when are we going to get out of this, because we don't have that answer, but maybe some tips, some ideas, some creative, where do you get your ideas from, or whatever, those kind of things, communicating. So I'm thinking about like out of the box ideas that you've tried that maybe you wouldn't have necessarily tried without this. And so Tony, I'm thinking about Stopfinder. The day after we close the office building, it's a Saturday, and I'll let you take it from there. And then the rest of you be thinking, if you could, about maybe just some and they're not all going to work maybe, but maybe if you could kind of share some of those out of the box creative ideas because your back's against the wall kind of thing. Tony.
So guys, I'm really, something that my biggest takeaway, and I think it completely changed my company, including me, that it's about communication. So how do you call a client right now? How do you call a prospect? So that's something of course, I start seeing these email on first thing Saturday morning, like all these companies, Marriott's, you know, from the CEO of the company, like, oh, wow, I got to send out an email to all of our clients. So I'm thinking, what am I going to tell them? Like everything else everyone else is saying. So I realized I got to do something. And what do you have that's going to be this big product? So we actually started giving away some software. And, you know, it's because this is something that's important to them, but also was a good reason for me to have a conversation. Because if I'm just going to have that normal, that everyone's getting emails about, this is all the things we're doing as a company. No, what are we doing for you? People need solutions. So therefore, you could say everything you're doing and how you keep everyone safe. At this point, no kidding, right? But people want to know what's in it for me. And I'm talking about employees and your clients and your prospects. So that's really what I had to think about, and really fast thinking. So, I mean, obviously I could talk all night long about this, but that is I have to say, think about what's in it for your client, for your employees, for your prospects. It's not about me, because, hey, I remember that night, I wasn't feeling good. It's like, wow, this is horrible. But I realized, what am I going to do? I could just stay in bed, continue drinking, or, you know something, I got to do something right now. And so made a lot of decisions. Some worked out great. Some maybe not so good, but you got to keep trying. And I tell you, and this is why I was able to get my entire team behind it. That was really my biggest takeaway. That, guys, ladies and gentlemen, we're not giving up, but I need not just me. I need all of you to challenge each other. And I tell you, you guys all have different organization. You can't just put it all on yourself. You can't. You pick that team. Remember that. There's a reason you picked them. So it's time for all of you come together.
That's good.
Hey, I said it. I'm not going down fighting, man. I'm not. So that's what I keep saying.
I like that. That's
I
all.
hope I can give you the answer.
No, that's great. That's great. Well, I was thinking specifically, we gave away a communication tool called Stopfinder that was not just to clients, but it was actually it was the first time in our company's history where we just said we're giving it away for the rest of the school year, and it's basically a two-way communication tool that is like a secure network, and so it helps reduce misinformation. So I thought that was very creative, and it helped change the conversation. Dave, I gave you some time to think there, some out of the box ideas there.
Yeah, so just real quick, Jeff, I just want to make a comment to you about, 120 of our 180 employees are working class, no more than a high school education. Typically, a lot of cases, paycheck to paycheck. One of the things that we're exploring right now, and like I said, we're in a decent situation with regard, and I take it day by day. I don't want to, count our chickens for their hatch, but, we're looking at financial literacy tools. How do we really use this as an opportunity and an impetus to train people to invest in 401k programs, to save 10% of the paycheck, to live within their means. So I'd love to catch up with you on some of that stuff, because I have a pretty big heart and desire to really see financial literacy, especially in that class. My dad was a blue collar guy at GE for 38 years. He saved, he lived old school traditional values and really reinstilling some of those things. You know, in terms of creativity, I talked a little bit about what we've done locally. You know, our business in Denver is a capital goods business, produces supercritical CO2 equipment for the cannabis and hemp industries. And the problem with those industries is that you can't get traditional bank financing for the equipment for obvious reasons. You know, whereas in our other businesses, the CNC machine tools and everything else, you get traditional financing and loans on them. So, you know, a lot of the buyers in that industry typically rely on investment capital, and investment capital is pretty much dried up, you know, for anything risky, you know, especially in that space. So we've had to get very creative in terms of how we actually fund or finance the machine tools that we're selling into that industry. So we started, you know, it's forced us to put together a small private loan group in order to do high cost leasing with deferral payment programs into that industry. We kind of went into a spot where we booked a handful of orders in Q1, and then in the beginning of Q1 in March, we booked one order, and we were averaging about 6 to 8 machines a month at that juncture. So it forced us to get really creative in terms of how do we look at the marketplace, you know, with the changed landscape. And I agree with what everyone's saying. Who knows what's going to happen to the market when policy shifts and changes, and how quickly people go back to normal life, which will probably be a long period of time. You know, when's investment capital going to start flowing? So we had to get super creative on funding and financing our customers. So we came up with a 50% deposit program with a 25% payment deferral with a private loan group putting up 25%. We had to roll that up in less than 10 days, put a $5 million loan tool together, which we did, and brought that to market. We just signed our first lease deal today, actually. And I know that's not necessarily driven, you know, humanity driven, but I think that's a very interesting way of looking at the dynamics of how this is changing industry and investment. And, you know, and again, it sounds weird talking about that because traditional loan programs exist in every capital goods industry, but it doesn't in that industry. And how do you survive, and how do you keep those 80 people employed out there, you know, by getting creative in terms of how you serve your clients with different, you know, financial tools.
Yeah, and I wasn't just talking humanity. I mean, I'm just talking about business, you know.
Yeah.
That's, you know, keeping your employees employed is humane. So
Yeah.
anybody else? Yeah, Heidi, Rich, anybody? Bela.
One thing that so before doing all of this in my past life, I was in academia. My PhD is in history of medicine. And so a lot of this is like looking at what we're living, this history that I have read a lot about, you know? And so my wife's family, we were all doing a Zoom call, and they said, like, so when do you think this is going to be over? You know, like, are we betting like early May or June? And my wife was like, don't ask the historian of medicine, because she's really going to like bring you down here, you know? And so it's been interesting because history has always been something that has like sobered me, but not, I'm having a bit of cognitive dissonance with all three roles, with the banker role, the small business owner, and also this kind of historian role. There's like, it's kind of bringing all three of my lives into one melting pot that is like really intense. So, and I don't drink, so, you know, there's not that for me, but.
Anybody else want to jump in? I have a couple other quick questions, and I don't want to keep you too long. I know it's
drinking as well. On the creativity side, I think one of the things that we had to do, because our end customer is just someone we're providing safety to, right? They have a roof over their head, and they want to know that their apartment is not going to give them coronavirus. And so that's really easy. That doesn't require any creativity. Just be the best you can. But we went into a mode of let's hoard all of the cash that we can find, because we also don't know who's going to pay their rent. You know, we have over 30 commercial tenants, and we received $0 in commercial rent in April. You know, and a lot of that was us communicating to them and saying, don't pay your rent. I don't want you to pay your rent because I want you to survive, and I don't want to replace a Plumb Oyster bar with a new Plumb Oyster bar because I needed a rent payment for a month. So we called all of our commercial tenants and told them not to pay their rent. And then went to the banks and told them, look, our commercial tenants aren't going to pay their rent, so I'm not going to pay my mortgage. And, you know, it was calculated, right? The banks they want us, we're going to be the ones that shepherd it through this process. But it's gonna, you have to do the right thing. And so I think that it shouldn't be creative to do the right thing, but that's the decision we made early on. And then individually talk to residential tenants, and if they were going to have a problem, let's figure it out. And before the governor said you can't get evicted for 90 days, we were not going to evict anyone.
Hey, Jeff, I want you to be my landlord. I just want to say it out loud. Do you have any warehouses anywhere or any factories? I'm just curious.
So, yeah,
no, okay.
Okay. So is it delayed rent, or are you just going to forgive April?
So it'll be a tenant by tenant decision. For the most part, the answer is just, hey, extend your lease 3 months and we'll throw it on the back end of it. And then we went back to banks and said, hey, we're not going to pay our mortgage for the next 3 months, but the interest will accrue, and we'll put it on the back end of it. And, we'll not pay our property management fees to ourselves and just keep cash on hand so that we can keep everybody employed. And then, hopefully that tenant has a really good experience, and that builds the business moving down the road.
Right. Rich, anything you want to add on that? This at all?
No, I thought Bela was going to say something. I wanted to hear what he had to say.
Bela?
Yeah, so, you know what, I want to thank you, Rick, for putting this together, because I feel really good. Actually, I feel much better now than I did a couple of hours ago. And here's why, right? You guys are the business leaders in the community. And whether you have, 5 or 6 people working with you or for you, or you have 100, right? All of those people are looking to you for where the hell are we going, right? You have that burden. And I find it really fascinating the way that you've all dealt with that in many different ways, but they all have a core set of values, right? So you guys have gone back to these basic human values and said, what are the really important things to people in the world? And those are the things we're going to focus on and concentrate on, right? Putting a roof over people's heads, making sure they can eat, right? Taking care of Maslow's, base hierarchies, not the real self-aspiration or whatever the hell it's called, right at the top of the pyramid. So to me, that's really heartening and makes me feel good, number one. And number two, change always brings opportunity. And all of you have talked about that. As business leaders, all of you have talked about, so, all right, I can't mix drinks anymore, so I got to figure out a different way to provide my service or my product to my customers, whether it be people are working from home, or whether it be we got to figure out a different way of doing this. And I think if you look back, and Heidi can correct me being the historian here, but I think oftentimes periods right after really troubled times are the most innovative and the best. Right? So it's an opportunity because it forces people, number one, to go back to their core values, and it forces people to figure out different ways of doing things, i.e. providing products and services to others in more innovative, more efficient, more effective ways. And I just, that's to me what I see going on here.
It's all, actually, Bela, it's almost like we had a pre-call, which we didn't, by the way, because that leads to my next question is there anything you're doing now that is better pre-coronavirus that you think is going to move into the way you do business post-coronavirus? So Bela, thank you for that lead-in. Anybody see things that are different now that will probably be different in a good way going forward?
Well, I got to say it's communication, right? This is something that, I would have these once a year, a couple of times a year, company gathering, would have these big parties, and I would sneak in some communication whenever there's an opportunity, whether it's a birthday party, maybe it's before Thanksgiving, I have an opportunity, all right, let me talk in front of everybody. And I chose maybe a dozen times throughout the year to really, tell everybody, just go up there and just say a few things. I realized that's not enough. And, as a successful company, that's not enough. And, is every single night before midnight, is that too much? I can't say if that's too much. I feel like now there's an obligation. So that was something that I'm always going to do. And I realized, wow, apparently I wasn't communicating. And as I'm talking to all the team members of my company, And it's like, where were you? I sent that in January. Like, January? It's April now. So I'm thinking, wow, I guess I should communicate more often. It's that biggest, I mean, obviously, there's so many things we're doing and we should be doing, and we're blessed, and we're all trying to survive. But my biggest thing is, wow, I should communicate every night. And I tell you, I'm not going to bed until I send this massive email to the entire company.
That's good.
You know, Rick, Heidi made a comment about how people are really affected in a lot of different ways. And I know, that tends to get a lot of focus, especially when there's crisis and issues going on. But one of the things that's really going to shift for us is, my perspective and our perspective as a company. Frankly, we've failed our community prior to this crisis in terms of serving them properly and giving enough effort, time, and energy, money, treasure to the people that live in our community. So I think from our perspective, this is really, kind of engaging us into our community in a really unique way, because one of the things we say to our guys, I said, we're blessed and lucky enough to be working now. A lot of people aren't. So we have to, and again, ideas of trying to give back. So I think after this, we have to make it very intentional to engage in our community and to help those who are impacted, not just in tough times, but just in everyday life. And so I think hopefully we carry that into the post-crisis, time frame. So
increasing those touches, really. We have at my church, we have this thing. Different leaders have families that are responsible to just check in with periodically. But now it's like, have you called them this week, making sure that, hey, just want to make sure everything's okay. Do you have any shut-ins that need to have food delivered to their homes, or just need prayer in any way? So more of that, not less of that. So that's good. Thanks, David. Others?
I do want to defend, Heidi made a remark about that, said, basically said, men have just learned the value of communication.
Thank you, Rick.
Basically.
I'm paraphrasing. I think I'd say it a different way. I think that all of us as business people we communicate every day. I can say, I personally, though, I'm really hampered by not being able to actually see the person I'm communicating with. Talking on the phone, that's one thing, but I'm one of those people who I walk around my office, 20 times a day, and I just need to see the look on somebody's face. Just, are they busy? Are they stressed? So I think we've always understood the value of communication. It's just that when it's disconnected from the visual, at least for me, it's more difficult. So one thing that we will do better, certainly at our law firm, yes, now we've all learned that, yes, we can actually work remotely, 350 people working remotely that we always thought we could do, but now we have to. But with that, the phone calls aren't going to be enough. I need to, I need to say, I'm looking at you. So I know that you're hearing what I'm saying. And so I think that we're going to, work that into, our strategies going forward.
That's good.
Rich, I got to comment to that, because I tell you, I'm a very social person. I mean, I actually get energy from people. That's how I get a lot of ideas. And I can't believe there's times I just go out just to get some water out of my office here in my house. And my wife we're just spending so much time with my son with this remote learning, that she's like, wow, you don't even come out anymore. Like, do you even go to the bathroom? Where do you go to the bathroom at? So I'm actually shocked that, that was something I lived. I want to see people's energy. I needed that. That's the way I am. I'm Italian. I hug people. I touch. I shake hands. Wow.
Italian?
I can't believe I'm actually, guys, I can't believe I'm surviving without that. How's that, Heidi? Right? The guy, I'm saying, wow, I actually thought I needed, face to face. And
I've not had any human contact in 25 days.
I can't believe it. I am actually.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
I'm a little bit surprised at myself.
We all give Jeff a little bit of a virtual hug, just to. So.
Hey, hi, Jeff. High five. Here you go.
But Heidi, that also tells you for your industry. People are hungry. no pun. People are hungry to get back out. People are hungry to go to restaurants. People are hungry to congregate. Yeah, I think it'll be phased in, because I think the same way I think Dave was talking about, when Cuomo was changing the rules every day. I think there's going to be the unwinding of that. So it'll be 25%, it'll be 50%, it'll be 100% back at work. And maybe you'll see restaurants, serving, 50% capacity or something. But people want that. I think, the folks in your industry should, I know it's terribly difficult trying to survive now, but everybody wants that back. And then that should hearten you and give you some hope, I think.
Yeah, the problem is I don't want to end the call on doom and gloom, so I won't give you the scenario, but there is a scenario in which they can't have that. They might want it, but they can't have it.
Right.
So
well, there's some things that are going to be fundamentally changed forever. There are businesses, I hate to say it, that are not going to survive. And it's already happened. Is that what you're saying? There are some things.
No, what I'm saying is that without getting too political, I think we can all agree that we haven't had the best national response. So what that's causing is this kind of wave across the country. So we now have these PPP loans, which are just starting to come out. So people are bringing people back to work, kind of advocating for this stimulus to happen now. But if the stimulus happens now, let's say in Oklahoma, where there's no outbreak, and then all of a sudden there's the outbreak in Oklahoma and it all has to shut down, it just, and then they rise back up, and then the COVID-19 comes back here because it doesn't have a very long immunity. It could just be this kind of never-ending cycle of COVID-19. Right. And so in that scenario, we would basically have to start up Plumb Oyster Bar and then shut it down.
Right.
And then start it up.
Well, I mean,
and then shut it down.
But Heidi, you'll be more prepared. First of all, all the healthcare facilities are going to be a little more prepared for it. But yeah, I think obviously the states have written a template now. It might be that every flu season we see a partial shutdown for 2 weeks. We see forced social distancing.
Right.
You can plan for it.
Right.
And I think at the end of the day, again, without getting too political, I think nationally people are going to want to. Nationally, there's going to be a push to get people back to work.
Yeah, I think I am one that is not actually disappointed nationally, so I don't want to get into politics because I am very.
Rick, we know. We see your Facebook posts.
I feel like
we got to get back to business. Really, I tell you, we got to get back to business.
I've been very
something we are right. We always say we have the power. At a certain point, we have to force business going back. So listen. I'm from Italy. I have a lot of family. They've been shut down. I mean, they're shut down. They can't go anywhere. We can't let that happen. At a certain point, we got to get back. I'm serious, guys. And we have to figure this out. And listen, I have no medical background at all, but we're all smart men and women here. We got to get back. And I'm not 6 months from now, we're not even going to have this kind of meeting anymore. So we got to get back. So I don't have the answer, but I hope it motivates people to stand up and figure this out here, because we got to get back to where it was before. And I mean it across the board.
Can I end on a positive note?
Right?
I got one last question I want to ask, so go ahead.
I will never have to shake anyone's hand again.
I'm shaking hand.
My Facebook post, I'm like, guys, I'm sorry. I don't know. I think it might be a little bit of an overreaction. But my question to you is this. So the community that goes to the BizLab events, and a lot of them are startups or people just starting their careers even, and then there's also other leaders as well. And so what I want to end with all of you to say, and then we'll just end it, is maybe just one lesson or one thing that you want them to take away from this, because I think Bela said it very well. It's been this has been uplifting, and you all inspire me, and I mean that sincerely. So why don't I just start with Tony? I'm looking at the top of my row here. and just, you know, something that you want people to take away from this, that maybe they can even, you know, if they're a leader, maybe they're either a manager, maybe they're a CEO, maybe they're a startup, and they're, you know, we have some BizLab companies that, you know, David just opened up True Juice Cafe. I mean, tough. And we've been in communication with each other. You know, he's been trying to be creative in how he can serve his community still. So maybe just think about that as your audience, your this question for that they can maybe take away from you. So Tony, takeaway? I know I didn't give you any warning on that.
No, I think I got to say the takeaway has to be just try to calm down. And I think as the leader, that's my job. Listen, I could be in my house and, you know, cry in a pillow, but when I'm right there, I can't show that. And that's what leaders supposed to do. You know, you go there, and then if, by the way, if you're not in that position, that moment, then don't get in front of the camera. But I think the takeaway, we all have horrible days. And by the way, we all got sucker punched on this thing. We all did. It's a sucker punch. But the takeaway is you got to be solid leader, which means you gotta have your thoughts well put together before you get in front. Now it's either camera or a phone. I mean, that's and if you're not up for it that moment, it's okay. Just don't get on a phone, because you set the tone. And I got to listen, we're all gonna struggle, but takeaway, be clear and precise communication. I can't overemphasize that.
That's good. So be a little more precise. You can't just wing it. You got to be a little more.
Nope. Don't be hypothetical anymore.
Very good. Rich.
I think that we've heard a lot about the people who are, you know, we've been talking economics, but there's obviously the health component. I think 16,000 or some terrible number that we're up to just in the United States. The number in New York is awful. And we hear a lot about underlying conditions, something like I've heard between 86 and 90% of the people who died, you know, had an underlying condition. So as for the startups in the BizLab, I think you really have to look kind of corporately at your underlying condition and, you know, being, you know, is it lack of capital? Is it lack of sales? Is it, you know, identify your underlying condition and work as hard as you can to strengthen it, or to strengthen, you know, kind of the infrastructure around it. And, you know, be as ready as you can for, you know, the most unexpected thing.
That's good. I mean, I saw an email the other day from one of our clients at Transfinder who said they were in Georgia, and they said a couple of years ago they got clobbered with a snowstorm, and there were no chains for the trucks. So guess what? Right after that massive snowstorm, they got a lot of chains. So then I think this year there was last year there was a snowstorm. It wasn't as massive, but they were ready. So like you learn, and then there's some preparation you can take into this so that you're not caught off guard as much, maybe. Is that right? David.
Yeah, so I'd say to startups and small, young businesses that are just getting going, you know, one of the things I love about our country is one of our values that we're highly resilient, we're hyper entrepreneurial, you know, we rise to the occasion, we have soul in this country. You know, we've been through some tough times in the past. This is different. There's no doubt about it. We don't know how the, pathway to normalcy is going to look. But I often tell young entrepreneurs, and, you know, I tell a lot of the, I sit on the board of our church, I sit on the board of our school. We've had, have a lot of these conversations. I always tell them, plan for the worst, but hope for the best. Don't lose hope. You know, hope is not dilutive reality. Some people say hope can sometimes be something that is not real, but I think because of our value system, because of the things that our country has come through and how resilient we've been and how quickly we bounce back and adjust and make shifts and changes and are just entrepreneurial in terms of how we solve problems, you know, we're going to emerge from this thing stronger and better and smarter and maybe, equipped to deal with these things better in the future. But don't lose hope. You know, there's going to be tough days. You know, you talk about all the small businesses around here. There's going to be times we don't know how you can make payroll. You got to lay people off. There's going to be tough times and tough days. Plan for the worst, but don't ever lose hope because this country is resilient and we will get stronger, better, faster, and smarter as we go forward.
Awesome. Are you running for office? I'm going to vote for you.
I don't want to be on any stage, okay, especially at these times. So.
I think I would just say never let a good crisis go to waste. And so, you know, that's really the takeaway, is that right now the rules are being rewritten, so you can be part of that. So you can be part of that rule rewriting. And so as you're pivoting and all of those things, it's exciting. It's stressful, but it's exciting, right? So I think that having startup companies not lose, because startups are already exciting, right? So this stress can sometimes inject excitement into a existing business. For startups, they're already excited. So Rich can speak a little bit more about that. But the other thing is, I would say the second piece of advice is what Rich said to me in the beginning, is that because all the rules are being written right now, you're gonna make mistakes, and that's okay, because the rules were different. Then, you know, you just are gonna make mistakes, so that's okay.
Almost some freedom in it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Jeff.
Yeah, so I would say if you look back at the 08 Great Recession, that's kind of, I started in real estate shortly after that. And one of the things we saw was an entire generation of people saw their parents lose their value in their homes and had a huge shift in behavior. And that's really what drove our urban revitalization over the last 10 years. It was millennials who wanted an experience. They didn't want to be tied down to a house. And so the cost of housing went through the roof because there was a market there to pay for it. I think there's going to be a doubling down on that. I believe that the idea that cities are too dense won't really fly, particularly in tertiary, secondary markets like Albany. Our cities will continue to boom. And I think that if I was talking to young entrepreneurs and startups, it would be hyper focus on the experiential part of your business and what you can do to make people have that feeling. Because I was sitting around my apartment the other day, and I'm a minimalist. I do not have a lot of stuff. Like, my background is my windows. And I'm sitting here thinking, why do I have so much crap? And, I'm on the outer edge of that generation. But I know that the experience side of humanity, particularly if Heidi's fears really come true, if this ends up being a roller coaster where we go in and out of something, people will begin to spend the majority of their income on, I'm going to live life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've been wondering about, and Bela, I didn't forget you because I want to ask you and then I'm going to close it. I was thinking about this the other day. You know how maybe you know people who lived through the Depression, and so how they save things, they wrap things, I remember, making Spam, I think, whatever, just like that mentality. So I kind of wonder what comes out of the coronavirus generation is, are we going to even see 15 to 16-year-olds when they become like 70 and their grandkids say, why do you wash your hands so much? Oh, I came from the coronavirus. It will fundamentally change us. So I was just thinking about what habits am I doing that's going to identify me as having gone through this that will be recognizable from a future generation. Bela, and then I'll close it.
All right. Well, thanks, Rick. So I think that as human beings, we have this responsibility, right? So whether it's our family, whether it's our friends, the people we work with, they can sense what you're feeling, right? They can look at your face, or they can tell. So they can sense the energy that you're vibrating out, whether it's positive energy or negative energy. And I think, when times are good, it's easy to vibrate out positive energy. And I think during these times, it's particularly important that we think about the energy that we're emitting from our bodies, because all of those people that I just mentioned are actually looking to us, right? For guidance, for inspiration, right? My kids have called me more in the last 3 weeks, than ever. And I can tell that they're like struggling with stuff emotionally. And so you got to think about that. And yeah, I have the times that I crawl into my closet and I deal with those things. But I think it's a real responsibility that we have to others in the world, because we have no choice. We fundamentally have to get through this. because the option is not all that nice. So we have to figure out a way to get through it. And we're going to figure out a way to get through that by working together, doing things like this, sharing ideas and thoughts, and sort of saying, you know what, we can do this. And if we do that, I think if we do that well, it helps other people focus. And now positivity rubs off on them, gives them confidence, and then they can move forward as well, both mentally and physically, and they have the energy to do that. So that's what I think is to me, my takeaway and sort of my reflection of what I've learned from tonight and being able to reflect on it and saying that that's really important and very valuable.
That's good. Well, I want to thank you all for tonight. There's a few things I'm thinking. One is just an appreciative spirit that I think there's going to be even more of that out there when things that we took for granted. Even, when I go to do takeout and I look into the dining hall that's darkened and there's a sign that says we're not taking any guests in here. Like I take that for granted. Just like I remember at 9/11, and I live in Schenectady, so the only airplanes that were ever flying overhead was from the Air Force, base. But just remember, like, who looks in the sky and is appreciative of seeing a plane going overhead? I wasn't until 9/11, but now however many days the planes were shut down, and then the only plane I'm seeing is a military plane, which I was appreciative for. So I think we're going to have a new era of appreciation. How long it lasts, I don't know, but I think, and then gratitude. I mean, maybe those are some of the same, different sides of the same coin. But I'm grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for your friendship and your wisdom. And I just want you to know, like, your employees and the people that you're rubbing shoulders with, they appreciate you and they want to hear from you. Like Tony said earlier, and all of you have talked about communication. And so I just want to encourage you. My wife has encouraged me over the years. When you have that desire to do something, don't hesitate it, just do it. So someone comes to mind. I sent someone a note today. We went to college together and I just sent him a silly note. And it was a one-word answer, really. It was like an inside joke that I knew he would probably laugh just with this one word. And it wasn't a bad word, by the way. And he got back to me going, hey, I'm really busy tonight, but I want to catch up with you. Can we talk tomorrow? So I'm glad I did that. I'm going to talk to him. I haven't talked to him in 5 years probably. So if you have that instinct to do something, just do it. And it will be appreciated. Anyway, I want to thank you. So my goal is to get this up where the BizLab-Clarkson community can see it, and I'll keep you posted as I'm figuring some of this stuff out. So anyway, I just want to thank you again so much and hope you have a great rest of your night.
Thanks, Rick. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Be safe, guys. Be safe.